Greetings, everyone. This is Pamela Lorenzo, the host of the Leaders of Health podcast. Today, I have a repeat again, one of the most powerful episodes I did in a while with a good friend of mine and fellow number one international bestseller. We're both part of this. Yes. Show me show the number one thing.
There's the gold
sticker. Oh yes. Number one bestseller on launch day, April 1st, and by April 4th, number one international bestseller and number one international hottest launch. So super happy for that. We did well. So congratulations to you, congratulations to me and the entire team.
And
because yes, give me 10. We deserve it, absolutely. So again, she's here today, back. The first episode was really powerful because we talked about a very interesting chapter of her life. First of all, her background, her upbringing and all that. But what really got my attention to spend the most time was when she mentioned that she spent a few years living in Pakistan and how she got married there and she converted to Islam and coming back and all that. So we talked about that fascinating chapter of her life. That could be an entire book by yourself. You're just throwing an idea for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have that in mind.
I will say I had already been converted. I converted to Islam living in Australia 6 years prior to that whole, because there's a whole lot of stuff out there, a whole lot of messaging out there, particularly for convert women. Generally the first question asked of us is, did you convert for marriage? No, actually I didn't. So hence why when the marriage ended, I was still Muslim for another actively Muslim, solely focused Muslim for at least another 5 years after the marriage and coming back to Australia. Today, I'm not, I haven't renounced Islam in the sense of, saying it's not right or anything, but it's just my personal spiritual practice is multifaceted, and I am pulling in what works for me. So I am choosing to not practice a particular orthodox path in all its formal entirety, be it Islam, be it Buddhism, be it pagan, Wiccan, whatever. I have a toolbox of many spiritual tools for me. So that's my personal private practice really now, rather than feeling like I have to identify with one group or another. But yeah, it's like, no, I didn't become Muslim for some damn man.
Yeah, so we talked about that in the first episode, and now today we're going to talk about moving forward once you came back. So again, welcome back to the show, Pia.
Hi, Pia. Hello, how are you going?
Beautiful. How about you? How are you doing today?
I'm doing really, really well, thank you. It is Saturday morning in Sydney, and finally there's some sun out after weeks and weeks of rain. So we'll finish up here today, and I'm going to head out into the world and be sociable.
Enjoy. Beautiful. Yeah,
I will.
So today, let's talk about the beautiful impact you're having in the world. Tell us about your business.
Thank you. Well, so coming back, when I did finish up with Pakistan and I came back, yes, that was the impetus for that second marriage happened, or I was 39 entering into 40, and I found that I was in search for, having a chance of reliving 20s and 30s that I'd missed out in the first abusive marriage and a major head injury that occurred when I was 28 from being run over at high speed. And so I had quite a number of road bumps along the way in my early adulthood I read at 39, I'm like, oh gosh, heck, I'm about to be 40, and really hadn't realized how much I'd internalized the messaging that is fed quite blatantly and very subtly to women in particular. Our experience of aging in a misogynistic patriarchal society is indeed rather different to men's in many ways, and one of them is that when we hit a certain point and our value is told to us that it's dropped unless we are looking younger, fighting off the signs of aging, still proving ourselves as fertile and all the rest of it. So yeah, I found myself marrying a younger man. So I was out in the world in search of trying to find myself, still in search of belonging. And as it happened, yeah, that I found myself marrying a much younger man and trying to have family number two, and trying to fit through a closing fertility window, another child, because there was this sort of pressure there that, well, that's what, from that cultural standpoint, that is what marriage was all about, was to have children. And so there was pressure on
did you have any kids from the first marriage?
Yeah, I've got a beautiful daughter. She's 25. She's married. She's out in the world. She's a graphic designer, a magazine publisher. I absolutely adore and love my wonderful son-in-law. He's just the sweetest young man in the world, and they're out in the world doing their thing, and every day enjoying the fruits of their talents and their generosity. I know that I am, and I speak about her in the current chapter, that definitely, as I was trying to navigate my own healing from marriage to her father, and recovery from a brain injury, and all the rest of the stuff, she herself was also trying to heal and rebuild from her relationship with her father, and seeing the abuse and witnessing it, and also experiencing it as well, and then navigating the fact that she had a mother who'd had a major head injury that then impacted her childhood, and then coming into the teen years and the young adult years. I feel very blessed that I acknowledge, as I think all parents need to, we no doubt that we are all for most of us, doing the best that we can, but it often does fall short. And part of my journey with my beautiful daughter was being able to acknowledge with humility my own imperfections, and see imperfections in myself as not being something to no longer go on a shame spiral about. I think what happens with us, and I talk about this in our chapter, when we acknowledge that we're imperfect, because we're human beings, and that is, we are perfect energy spirit beings having an imperfect human experience, and we are all doing the best we can. Sometimes we're in our wisdom, sometimes we're in that story in our head that's illusory, that's often fearful. And when we respond to the world from that space, well, then we end up not benefiting ourselves and those that we love around us. And when we acknowledge that, see, my chapter is actually crones being wise women. So the crone is the term given pre-Christianity. It's the term given to the elder wise woman of the tribe, and she was the shaman, the healer, the lawgiver, the storyteller, the lineage holder. She was revered. So vastly different experience for women today, where aging is, we're told it's something that's almost pathologized, and that we need to fear it. Back in the day, with the crone and the hag, the holy one, they were revered. And so part of coming into one's wisdom is recognizing that we don't need to live in regret. Understanding that we're not perfect is one thing, but we don't have to add an extra layer of story, which is unfortunately what I was doing. I was acknowledging my imperfection, but then I was adding an extra layer of suffering, saying that imperfection was something that I needed to feel guilty about. And then in that guilt, naturally, when we feel guilty, we can't hear the other people that we may have inadvertently hurt, because we're too busy in our shame spiral. So for a few years there, I wasn't able to be present for my daughter's expression and investigation of her own story, because I was caught and trapped in a maze of my own guilt and shame. Once I understood that I can acknowledge my mistakes without it being a shameful story, but just an acknowledgement of I'm a human and I did the best I could, then I was able to actually look outwards at the people in my life and apologize. Again, not guilt-ridden, not self-flagellation, but just acknowledging. And that's what an apology is. An apology isn't you whipping yourself or sacrificing anything in the sense of your own well-being. But an apology is acknowledging your imperfection at times, which may have inadvertently impacted those you love, and acknowledging and hearing their story and acknowledging them saying how they experienced it. We can't control how other people experience you, like us, and what happens. That's we are all in control of how we receive information, but we can acknowledge that sometimes we don't show up in our wisdom. Sometimes we show up in fear-based thinking, and that can result in other people not receiving in the best possible way on their end. And so it's simply acknowledging that. And when I was able to finally do that, my relationship with my daughter that had gotten a little bit rocky in the mid-teens to early 20s has just blossomed into a really beautiful relationship where she is a woman and I'm a woman. We're mother and daughter. We see each other in the many facets that we are. But I am so grateful for that. I'm grateful for her graciousness. And I'm grateful for my own ability to be humble with myself and those in my life. And that's part of the crone journey. And that's some of what I'm talking about in my chapter, Crones Don't Whine, 6 steps to awaken the joy within. Being that awaken the joy within is the unique framework that I use in my practice to guide women, particularly women, single, empty nester women over 40 like myself, to tap into their innate, ever-present wisdom. And that way they can live a guided life based on their innate joy and passion.
And how do you do that?
And how do I do that? Well, the six, what awaken is, and I love it, is both awakening to what is already existent, but it's also acting as, let's see if I get this right, an acronym. Ugh, don't say that too quickly. But it's being awareness. So awareness of the truth of what our being actually is. A lot of us are taught in this very materialist world. We're taught that we're just the body and just the brain and just physical. A lot of us maybe are walking around not realizing that we are energy beings in physical form. A lot of us are told that the outside world is what is causing us to have our feelings, and it's not true. It is our thinking in the moment that gives rise to feeling. And we then look out onto the world with the story we've told ourselves. And that is how we are experiencing the world. No one can make you feel anything except that you think it. So having levels of awareness, being guided by the wisdom, understanding that it's not the story in your head, but it's that inner voice that is plugged into the universe. As I said, we're all energy being, and any energy beings, the universe is the source of a sea of limitless knowing. And so our wisdom is inseparable from that. And it's our wisdom that is in fact our guidance system, not our intellect. So it's knowing about that and being able to hear that and tap into that. Appreciation. and certain kindness to self. So when you look out into the world with that sense of appreciation of self and others in all its imperfect glory, we are able then to be at ease in that present moment instead of searching for something more. Kindness to self, because let's say we make mistakes. Kindness is really very key, because when we are in our head and whipping ourselves, we are unable to show up in the present moment for ourselves and those around us. And of course, kindness to others, because they're imperfect too. Equanimity, being in a state of realization that we're okay no matter what's going on. A lot of us have been fed an idea that we need to have certain things in the outside world go a certain way for us to be happy. And so then we spend our lives in search out there to far-flung places looking for happiness. And that was one of the mistakes I was making. I was thinking the happiness was at the other end of achieving something or being somewhere else. And running away from the difficulties in my life as if those difficulties were the cause of unhappiness. But that's not the case. You can be in difficult circumstances, but not in a state of suffering. And that's being in a state of equanimity. So we talk together in coaching with me on how to get there with that. And then finally, it's being in the now, being present in this present moment is not your current crappy condition. A lot of people make that mistake because they say, be in the present. Yeah, but I don't like my present moment. No, being in the present is a default state that when you are not in thinking about the past in your current thinking, or worrying about the future in your current thinking, that energetic space that is free from thinking, that's the present moment. And it's in that present moment that we get to listen out for our inner wisdom that is always there and always ready to guide us if we listen to it. And when we are in that state of present moment wisdom, that's also where we get to realize that we are innately joyful and we have innate resilience and well-being. So working with me is all about pointing you back to what is already present in you, but for reasons of being caught up in the story in your head, you're not seeing that. So that is what I do. And I work with single women, single empty nesters. So empty nester being we've raised the kids, be it whether they're kids that we have given birth to or kids that we have fostered or adopted, or there's more ways than one to have children. So it's not necessarily tied to having given birth, but in the caring, you've spent your early decades caring for others. You have been partnered in some way, whether that's married or not, and finding ourselves in our mid-40s and beyond, single, free from caring for children and partners, and looking at our life going, what next? And so I'm here to help women look beyond that identity of self that society has pretty much handed us as saying this is who women are and what they need to be doing, to realize that there's a lot more for them yet to come beyond being an active caregiver.
Okay.
Not that caregiving is a bad thing, it's not, but what's really interesting is when you take care of others from a space of first caring for yourself, then we actually get to show up for ourselves and others with unconditional love, as opposed to expectations that often find ourselves disappointed because the people in our lives, we haven't shown up, haven't acted, haven't behaved in a way that we had told ourselves maybe that they should have. So when we show up for ourselves first with kindness, we then can be present for those in our lives. And it's not an act of obligation. but just a natural state of being, you know.
Absolutely. So you mentioned you're helping women to transition to the next stage. So speaking of next, what's next in store
Yes.
for Pia?
What is next in store? Well, apart from podcasting with yourself, I've done a few other I've got a few podcast interviews to go and a couple more coming out. And I've been writing for a couple of magazines. So I'm getting visibility and getting the story out there so that the conversation around women and aging and tapping into their crone wisdom and defying misogynistic, ageist, fat phobic messaging that's out there for many of us. So I'm out to have a conversation on that wherever I can. In my practice working with women, I have a one-on-one package that is a 90 days coaching with me in the Awaken method, looking at whatever it is that's coming up in your life. Everyone has a unique experience of life, and so issues that are coming up will be different for each woman. But I love doing that with my clients. I have a few spots left for the next 3-month period, so anyone who wants to work with me, they can reach out. But the big thing that I'm looking forward to doing is I'm building a membership, the Cackling Crone Collective, because part of being in one's crone wisdom is the joy of it. When you are showing up unapologetically, authentically yourself, that's where the joy is. And women definitely thrive in community and encouragement and support. So my Cackling Crone Collective membership will be my main focus of calling in my tribe into this container that will be off Facebook, because again, I've been finding Facebook to be very distracting lately. So I'm looking forward to bringing women from around the world into an online container. And then eventually, now that Australia has slowly opened its borders and we've post-COVID, that I'm looking forward to maybe 2023, 24 to be beginning of crone joy reboot retreats in Rome. I just have this thing. I want to be in Rome. I'm here in Australia. I want to bring a whole bunch of single empty nester women over 40, meet me in Rome, and we will joy reboot together, whatever that looks like. I'm using the term retreat, but I think that might change, because I know when people think retreat, they probably think hiking and meditating and all that. And though there might be some meditating or yoga, I'm more thinking of something far more sensual and luscious and sightseeing. And yeah, I'm thinking you've just got to be in Rome, and a lot of eating, obviously. So
good time, having fun, partying.
It's going to be
La Dolce
good.
Vita, in other words.
Yeah, this is it. This is it. So I'm excited to see, to get something like that off the ground as soon as is possible.
Partying as if you were 20 again. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, no, look at that. No, much better than 20. Yes, I've got to say, I know that there's some in this midlife space that use the term looking younger, feeling younger. Vitality and adventure is not synonymous, I should say, with being young. Heck, my youth, my 20s, I had chronic illness from kidney failure. I was run over at high speed with a major head injury. I was in an abusive marriage. My 20s were not vibrant. I'm 50 on Thursday. And
wow.
And I am
really?
so excited.
You don't look a day older than 35.
Older than 35, I am indeed. I am so looking forward to being 50 on Thursday, and I'm looking finally
happy birthday
to having
in advance. Wow. Do you have anything
Thank
big?
you.
Very welcome.
Yes.
Do you have any big celebration planned for that?
I have. My family have organized a family gathering with some family and friends at a fabulous Italian restaurant in Sydney here. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be next Sunday that we'll be gathering for that.
Wow.
And as I do every year, it is Godfather Trilogy with a box of cannoli. So we
you're
do the
true
Godfather
Italian. Love that.
marathon with the
Wow.
cannoli. Yeah. So I'm gearing myself up for that during the week.
Speaking of the trilogy, which one is your favorite one of the three? I love The Godfather.
Can you say so? I mean, they're all. I can't. I have to watch them all in a row because that's how the story arc goes, and you really have to. I do love 3. I know that
Really?
3 got. I know it's contentious. I know that a lot of people were like, "Oh, 3." No, you need 3. 3 bookended everything and made 2 make sense. No, you definitely did. I think the key is that you have to watch all 3 in a marathon.
Oh, wow. That's like
You do, because then you hear the themes across the music, you hear the themes across the narrative arc within the storylines. And if you watch 3 on the back of the other 2 straight away, you see how clever 3 actually really is. I think the problem is there was such a gap between the second and the third, and people were just seeing the third as a standalone, and it just didn't feel maybe as substantial, certainly not as 2, but it bookends. It's very, no, I'm big on my Godfathers, and you've got to have the cannoli to go with it.
absolutely.
Not the wine. Poisoned, of course.
And the wine.
Oh, and the wine. Yeah, I don't drink so much because of the I have a little sip here and there, but I don't drink so much because the head injury triggered epilepsy for me. So petit mal seizures, so not the fall down shaking kind, but the absent seizures. So
now you gave me an idea for this weekend, for maybe I should do it again, just to refresh my mind. Try watching it again, because
it's my birthday treat. I know it is.
I love those movies.
Hopefully next birthday I'll be doing it all again, but in Italy. This will be the go. I know.
Here's another great movie and the same theme that I can recommend: The Irishman.
Yes, that was a fantastic film, wasn't it? It's still not The Godfather, though.
No, there's quite a few. There's Tony Brasco, there's Casino, and I love those kind of movies.
All of it.
Godfather. I know. Lansky. Yeah, there's another one, Lansky, about and all that.
See that.
Yeah, watch it. It's
by Maya Lansky. Yeah.
Yes. I just watched. That's the last one I watched, and wow. That could be an entire episode just on mob stories and
just on mafia films. But it's a fabulous genre, but I guess it's not just this genre. It is those 3. I mean, those 3.
But one advice, one tip, I'm sure you know it, when you go to Italy.
Yes.
People are not big fan of that because it portrays it.
I realize that.
In a negative way. So because my brother-in-law is Italian, I mentioned to him, and he said, "No, we hate that in Italy."
Yeah, no. Well, they've actually, unfortunately, still, particularly in Naples, and that's still living with, they see it not as romanticized, but as the organized crime that it is. Absolutely. Yeah, I will resist the urge when down in Calabria and Sicily to go on the Godfather tours.
No, don't. I'm sure there must be a tour, especially in the little town of. What is it? There's a little town called Corleone. So if you go there, you can.
Yeah, no. I mean, there are Godfather tours. I've looked it up and Get Your Guide. There actually are. Yeah. You can go on them. So there are some people who are, yes, indeed, making money off the idea and taking you to the locations that were filmed and that. Yeah. But no, there's a lot more to Italy than The Godfather.
Oh, absolutely. I'd much rather go see the other. This morning, I went on my Instagram feed. I saw a wonderful series of photos from Tuscany. I absolutely fell in love with it so much that I saved it.
Yes. Oh, I will tell you this on YouTube. This is my joy. This is part of my manifesting trick every morning. Is on YouTube there is a channel. God, the Wandering. I should look it up again. The name of it suddenly can't think of them. But the chap wanders around with a GoPro on a stick. All through Italy. So you're wandering through Rome, you'll do walking tours through
Oh,
Rome,
yes.
through Tuscany, through this morning
Beautiful.
I was looking at Matera in Umbria, all over the place, and takes you. He took us through the Venice Carnivale in February. It's really good tours, and yes, this is it.
Oh, yeah. That's
And
awesome.
Stanley Tucci's. I've been watching Stanley Tucci's season
Yeah.
1 of Eating Through Italy. Fabulous series. So
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Oh, yes. It's paradise. You're going to love it, especially with your group. Is going to be fun. Now, let's move
Oh,
forward.
it will be a lot of fun. And I can't believe I was there in 90. Oh gosh, and this is where you go 90. Oh, that's only 20 odd years ago. No, I was there in 1992, I think,
All
or
right.
3, and I was there for about 6 months. And I haven't been back to Italy since. I've been a few other places, but not as much traveling as I would have liked. But I'm just dying to get back to Italy, really.
Yeah, I know. Let's move forward. We can talk for
Yes.
hours, but let's move forward. I have another podcast in a few minutes, so let's
Oh, okay. Well, better wrap things up then.
yeah. Listen, this we can do an entire podcast just on Italy because I'm passionate about
Oh,
Italy
I
as much as
know.
you. So yeah. Oh, yeah, but hey, let's do that even in Italy in person. Who knows? So
Oh, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Yes.
absolutely. Now let's talk about the theme of this podcast is cause. What would you say is for you a cause that you're really passionate about?
Yes. Well, I guess for me, underlying everything that I do is about realizing that when we are tapped into our innate wisdom and living in the moment from those nudges that we are pulling in from universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, and following that inclination, that intuition, that we find ourselves stepping into the unknown with uh, a certainty and a calm, even though things are still unknown. It's when we are in our head and thinking we have to logic our way through life and come up with the answers. That's when we live in fear. And that's when we end up making decisions for ourselves or for other people that are not beneficial. And we tend then to make the mistake of saying, like people say, oh, well, the past predicts the future. No, the past does not predict the future. The past is dead. The past just went by. We just had a past moment. It's gone. It's no longer impacting us unless we're thinking about it, unless we're bringing the meaning we're giving to it in the present moment. Other than that, it's dead. And the future doesn't exist. We only have this moment now. And the
Absolutely.
moment is, the access to this moment is not through our intellect. We've been raised in a society for centuries to believe that the intellect is, as they say, king. It's not. It's important, of course. I mean, it has its place, and don't
Sure.
get me wrong. I love intellect. In that, I've got multiple university degrees. I love, intellectually, theoretically looking at life and making conclusions about it and debating things. Pardon me. But it's the place for intellect is not as your guidance system. What the intellect is there for is when your wisdom has given you an inclination to move towards something. The intellect is there to help you utilize the how that is presented to you. So we have a place for intellect, but unfortunately, we've been using the intellect as the GPS, and it's not true. And then we get into strife. So that is really my cause, is to help humanity, but particularly helping my niche of women understand that there is a greater life for them, beyond what they can see through their limited thinking, and that they already have all the answers within. They are already resilient. They already have well-being. The crappy things in life have not broken them. Their soul is not damaged in any way. Soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, is not damaged by the events. And we always will be okay, no matter what's going on. And so that's, I guess, my mission in life.
Beautiful. Love that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, let's, to finish off, I'd like to ask a series of rapid fire questions on advices.
Oh, God.
All right, rapid fire questions. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received so far?
Always put yourself, as my mum would say, always put yourself in the winning position, meaning that, and now that I see, meaning that listen to your inner wisdom and don't make excuses for crappy treatment.
Love
really.
that.
Yeah.
What's the worst piece of advice you've received so far?
Follow the story, act rationally, follow the logic in your head, that kind of, think about it kind of thing. No, stop thinking. Thinking is not the answer.
Absolutely. Now imagine that you were blessed with a time machine and you can go back in time and sit face to face with an 18-year-old Pia. What's the number one piece of advice you would give to her, knowing all that you know now?
You are enough.
Oh,
You're
yes.
already enough. You are enough. I don't
need
to search
from people.
Anywhere for anything. I am fabulous. I have all that I need right now, and don't be scared to go off on an adventure on your own.
Love that. Now, here you don't have your podcast yet, but imagine that you add your podcast and today you're interviewing the most special person in your life, which is yourself. What's the first question you want to ask yourself? Don't think too much. What's the first question that comes to your mind?
What's your joy goal today?
And what's your answer?
Going to find some cannoli and eat it.
That's a great one. Love that. Now, the last question I want to ask you, and that's my favorite one. What is the smallest thing you've done in your life that has had the greatest positive impact in both your life and business? And by small, I don't mean something small. I mean the one thing. For example, for me, it's been starting my podcast. What about you?
Yes. Well, starting my business, Essential Awakening Mentoring, and showing up in it. I was not in the online space. Believe it or not, I managed to get through the majority of my life not being photographed, not being at the front end of the camera. So in the last few, I guess I came into the online space maybe 3 years ago, and have been slowly sort of working out what my business is and pivoting and that along the way. And there are now hundreds of photos. If I Google my name, there's so much information about me out there. So I guess I've put myself out there, stopped hiding, and showing up.
Absolutely. Especially now that you're an international bestseller.
Best-selling author and international public speaker.
Absolutely. Wow. And soon to be podcaster, wow.
I know. One day I will. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, Pia, absolute pleasure talking to you. Very welcome. Now, if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
My LinkedIn gives access to everything that I'm doing. So not LinkedIn, sorry, Linktree. So the Linktree /Joy Reboot Mentor. But I'm on Facebook. I am on LinkedIn. I am on Instagram. my website is Essential Awakening Mentoring, and my email address is pia@essentialawakeningmentoring.com. So there will be multiple ways to reach out to me. I am currently have 3 spots left for my intake of my 90-day VIP Crone Joy Reboot coaching package. There's one-to-one coaching package over a 90-day period. And I'll soon be opening the doors to my Cackling Crone Collective membership. So they're the 2 ways that I will be inviting women to work with me.
Beautiful. That's awesome.
Pleasure.
Listen, absolute pleasure having you back and talking to you. You have a powerful story. I really like that. So yeah, keep shining your light, keep blessing the world with your presence, with your impact, with your smile, with everything you're doing. Stay safe, stay awesome. God
Will
bless
do.
you. We're definitely
Bless
going to
you
be
too.
talking soon. Take care, my friend.
Ciao,
Cheers.
ciao. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.